Between 1974 and 1991, 10 people in Wichita, Kansas were bound, suffocated, and strangled, and for 30 years, the killer walked free. He worked a government job. He led a church congregation. Then, in February 2005, he made a single miscalculation. He asked police whether a floppy disk could be traced. They told him it couldn't. That was a lie. 10 days later, everything was over. By minute 8, the exact words printed in the Wichita Eagle that made Dennis Rader walk into a trap he built himself. Dennis Lynn Rader is born March 9, 1945, in Pittsburgh, Kansas. He grows up in Wichita, serves in the U.S. Air Force, earns a degree in Administration of Justice from Wichita State University, and in 1974 takes a job as an installer for ADK Security Systems, a company that teaches him, professionally, how people secure their homes against intruders. But that is not even the strangest part. On January 15, 1974, 4 members of the Otero family, Joseph, Julie, Joseph Jr., and Josephine, are found dead inside their home at 803 North Edgemore Street. Josephine is 11 years old. She is found in the basement. The killings are methodical, unhurried, and leave no usable forensic evidence connecting them to any named suspect. Wichita has not seen anything like this before. Investigators worked the Otero case for months. Then, on April 4, 1974, a second victim, Catherine Bright, is attacked in her home on East 13th Street. She does not survive. Her brother Kevin is shot twice during the attack and lives, the only surviving witness to ever see Rader's face during an active crime. Kevin Bright's description yields nothing actionable. The case stalls again. For 3 years, Wichita waits. Then, on October 22, 1974, the Wichita Eagle publishes a letter not from police, but from the killer himself. He calls himself BTK, an acronym he coined: bind, torture, kill. He claims the Otero murders. He describes details only the killer could know. He is not asking for attention. He is demanding it, and investigators now understand they are dealing with something deliberate and patient. Between 1977 and 1986, Rader kills 6 more people. Each murder is preceded by what he later describes in court as a fantasy, what he calls his projects. He selects victims by surveilling them for weeks. He calls this trolling. He keeps personal trophies. He writes letters. He draws diagrams. He operates with a discipline that for 30 years makes him invisible. Meanwhile, he marries Paula Dietz in 1971. They have 2 children. He coaches scouts. He attends Christ Lutheran Church regularly. In a moment, the single mechanical failure that unravels 3 decades of silence. But first, consider what investigators actually have by 2004. By 2004, the BTK case is effectively cold. The lead detective, Lieutenant Ken Landwehr of the Wichita Police Department, has inherited a case file spanning 3 decades. There are thousands of documents, dozens of dead leads, and a killer who has not communicated publicly since 1994. Many investigators believe BTK is dead. The DNA recovered from multiple crime scenes belongs to an unidentified male with no match in any database. The case has no active suspect. Then, in March 2004, a body is discovered. Rader claims responsibility for the 1986 murder of Vicki Wedgell, a Wichita woman killed at her home on West 13th Street. He mails a letter to the Wichita Eagle containing a photocopy of her driver's license and photographs taken at the crime scene. These photographs have never been made public. The case, which had been attributed to Vicki's husband, is immediately reopened. BTK is alive, and he is communicating again. What follows is one of the most psychologically complex law enforcement exchanges in American criminal history. Between March 2004 and February 2005, Rader sends at least 11 communications, letters, packages, and serial box notes to television stations and newspapers across Wichita. Each communication is a negotiation. He wants recognition. He wants to publish a book. He wants a television movie. He is, investigators note, not hiding. He is performing. Forensic analyst Randy Stone and the WPD communications team treat each package as both physical evidence and psychological data. The content of the letters is secondary. What matters is the pattern, Rader craves dialogue. He needs the police to be his audience. This need, this specific, documented psychological hunger for acknowledgement, becomes the mechanism of his capture. Here is the forensic reality of the DNA. Investigators have recovered semen from multiple BTK crime scenes. Rader has never sexually assaulted any of his victims. The semen is deposited post-mortem, as part of what he calls his fantasy ritual. This detail is almost never discussed in mainstream coverage, but it matters forensically. It means the DNA is voluntary, abundant, and definitively his. They have his genome. They simply have no name to attach to it. What happens at minute 8 is what this entire video was built for. In a moment, the newspaper ad that told a serial killer exactly what he wanted to hear, and exactly none of what was true. In January 2005, Rader sends a cereal box, a Park City, Kansas Post Toasties box, to KAKE-TV. Inside is a communication asking a direct question: can a floppy disk be traced back to its sender? The question is not casual. Rader is testing the reliability of a new medium before he commits to using it. He is, in his methodical way, conducting due diligence on his own anonymity. Lieutenant Landwehr and the BTK task force confer with FBI behavioral analysts. The question on the table is not technical, it is psychological. Rader is asking for a guarantee. If police say yes, he goes silent. If police say nothing, he goes silent. There is only one answer that keeps him communicating. So on February 10, 2005, the Wichita Eagle publishes a notice in its classified section. The message is direct: floppy disks, it states, cannot be traced. This is not an opinion. It is not a qualified statement. It is a published, deliberate lie. And here is the moment the entire case turns. But to understand why Rader believes it, you need to understand the psychology that FBI profiler Roy Hazelwood identifies afterward. Rader is convinced, with absolute certainty, that law enforcement cannot afford to lie to him. In his mind, police need him communicating. They fear his silence more than they fear his crimes. He believes he holds leverage. That belief, that specific, documented miscalculation, is the instrument of his destruction. 6 days after the Eagle publishes its false notice, on February 16, 2005, a purple 1.44 megabyte Memorex floppy disk arrives at KSAS-TV, Wichita's Fox affiliate. It is packaged inside a manila envelope alongside a gold medallion necklace, a photocopy of the 1989 crime novel Rules of Prey by John Sanford, and a chain of dog tags. The disc itself is a standard retail item. Rader has handled it with apparent confidence. Detective Dana Gouge of the WPD Computer Crimes Unit loads the disc. It contains several files, including what appears to be a letter from BTK. But Gouge does not stop at the visible files. He runs a deleted file recovery scan. This is standard forensic protocol. When a file is deleted from a floppy disk, the data is not erased. The directory entry is marked available, but the actual binary content remains physically on the disk until overwritten. Gouge finds something Rader believes is gone. The recovered file is not a murder confession. It is not a threatening letter. It is a deleted church meeting agenda, a routine administrative document from a congregation's business meeting. The document's metadata field contains 2 pieces of information Rader has not thought to scrub: the name of the last person to edit the file, listed as Dennis, and the institutional owner of the software license, listed as Christ Lutheran Church. Investigators cross-reference immediately. Christ Lutheran Church in Park City, Kansas, Rader's own congregation, where he has served as president of the church council. The name Dennis narrows it further. Within hours, Wichita police have a full name. Within days, they have covert surveillance. And here is the detail that makes this collapse complete. Rader only uses the church computer because his home PC is broken. Had that machine been functioning, the metadata would have pointed to a private, anonymous device registered to no institution. One mechanical failure, 30 years of concealment undone. But the case is not closed until the DNA confirms it, and how police obtain that DNA without ever approaching Rader is the detail most retellings omit entirely. Investigators need biological confirmation before they can arrest. Approaching Rader directly risks alerting him. Demanding a sample requires probable cause sufficient to survive court. So the task force pursues a third option: familial DNA matching. They learn that Rader's daughter, Kerry Rader, was treated at Kansas State University's Lafitte Health Center. Through a court-sealed subpoena, investigators obtain a pap smear taken during a routine examination without Kerry Rader's knowledge. The logic is forensic. A biological child shares approximately 50% of a parent's DNA. If the sample from Kerry Rader matches the crime scene DNA at the familial level, same locus patterns, consistent inheritance, it confirms Dennis Rader as the source. The analysis is conducted by the Kansas Bureau of Investigation. The match is statistically conclusive. Kerry Rader's sample confirms her father's guilt before her father knows he is a suspect. On February 25, 2005, 9 days after the purple disc arrives at KSAS-TV, a warrant is issued. The following morning, February 26, Dennis Rader is stopped by police while driving near his home in Park City. He is taken into custody without incident. He does not run. He does not resist. Investigators later note that he appears, in the first moments of arrest, genuinely confused, as though the outcome he is experiencing does not match the outcome he has modeled. Within hours of his arrest, Rader begins talking. This too is consistent with the psychological profile. He has spent 31 years with a secret no one could share. Now, for the first time, he has an audience that knows. He describes each murder in procedural detail, the surveillance, the entry, the binding. He uses the word projects. He corrects investigators when they get a detail wrong. He is, to the end, performing. On June 27, 2005, Dennis Rader stands in Sedgwick County District Court and pleads guilty to 10 counts of first-degree murder. Judge Gregory Waller sentences him to 10 consecutive life terms, totaling a minimum of 175 years without the possibility of parole. Kansas has no death penalty at the time of sentencing. Rader is remanded to El Dorado Correctional Facility, where he remains today. The forensic post-mortem on the BTK capture identifies several systemic lessons. The first is about metadata hygiene, or the total absence of it among non-technical offenders. Rader is an intelligent man operating entirely outside his area of expertise when he touches a computer. He deletes the file. He believes deletion equals erasure. He does not know that fat-formatted floppy disks retain binary data in unallocated sectors until that space is physically overwritten. His technical ignorance is total and invisible to him. The second lesson is about psychological leverage in active negotiations with criminal subjects. The BTK task force does not wait for Rader to make a mistake. They engineer the conditions for one. They identify the specific belief that police cannot lie, and they use the Wichita Eagle to exploit it at scale. The publication of a false, classified notice in a major regional newspaper for the purpose of deceiving a serial killer is without precedent in documented American law enforcement history. What makes the ending of this case remarkable is not the technology, it is the psychology. And in a moment, the payoff this video promised from the very first scene. A broken home computer sends Rader to a church machine. That church machine carries a deleted file, a Christ Lutheran congregation meeting agenda, metadata stamped with the name Dennis Rader. That name leads police to a man who trusted a lie printed in the Wichita Eagle. Floppy disks cannot be traced. 7 words. Rader read them, believed them, and mailed the disk that ended 30 years of silence. What 3 decades of investigation could not find, a deleted church agenda found in 10 days. Leave a comment. Which detail changes how you see this case?